Hey everybody, it's Doom here from Dungeons and Doom Biscuit, and we're on our next Monster Manual entry, which today is the Ankheg. I assume that's how you say it. Ankheg. I don't know, Ankheg. It's a size large magical beast, and it's 10 foot long, weighs 800 pounds. It burrows in the ground and uses its little things to detect vibrations and comes up and attacks people. It has improved grab, and once every 6 hours it can spit acid. So, we can make this from scratch, I'm sure. Shouldn't be impossible. I do have some parts here that might be beneficial, though. These are little pieces of ankylosauruses, and I thought maybe using this one for the head over the body, maybe? I don't know. It's just an idea. Or we could just build it from, we can make it segmented and do it ourselves, I guess. Let's get some tinfoil and see what we can do. So I would say that we want to kind of get this and make it into like a two-part shape. Something like that. And we want to kind of pull the end out into a point like that. And we want to flatten the front of it like the head part. Okay, let's start with something like that. Let's make some armor for it. Let's get some other of this stuff here. Some cardstock. And let's make some segments to cover its back. And the only reason that we're not using the parts that I pulled out is because not everybody's going to have those. So let's get kind of our base shape started. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a little glue in there. I'm going to start on his lower back section. And I'm just going to hold that down there for a second, let it kind of get into place. And then I'm going to take another one of those little pieces like that. Actually, probably don't want to do all those that way. So let's do let's start with the butt and work our way up. I'm just starting right around where that point is. And I'm going to do a flat one there. And then what I want to do is I want to make one that's kind of something like that. We're just trying to add some strength to it. I should measure this. Ah, it's 2 inches long. Okay. Alright, so we have a little bit of a sturdy body. And then we want to pull that down and get that into place. Okay. Something like that. And then we're just going to kind of these don't have to be perfect, but we want them to have some kind of semblance of, like he's got armor plating going back on him here. And we'll just keep going back like that. We're just getting this. Okay. So we're starting to get his sections kind of petered out there. All right. So since these are all about the same length, there's not going to be a lot of variation on the sides, but we do kind of want to snip off any extras that we're not going to be able to hide with glue. Okay. Now for the front of his head, I don't know the best way to handle that. Let's get a wider kind of piece. And let's get some like pieces down to like kind of make a foundation of how this stuff's going to sit. And then we can come back and do some angled sections. And I just want to get some glue inside his little carapace here to fill that gap. We'll let that cool. Let's get another piece across his head. And then let's figure out how we're going to do the shape of the front of his thingy bob here. Oh, that's burning me. Alright. So, I think that since it's kind of like a weird fanned out shape, we should probably make a curve that goes both ways. Something like that. And let's yeah, I think we're going to need to do something with that face piece here. So that is kind of a point. And then let's just kind of fix that piece. Then we'll get that other piece we made. And we'll fit that under. Let's get this. Yeah, there we go. So I don't really have a plan. I didn't really have a plan walking into this. If you haven't watched before, I just kind of build stuff. And even though I have like rough ideas walking into them, sometimes I have nothing. I just show up at the table and make stuff. So I did have a rough plan walking into this that I was going to make an Ankheg. I knew that much at least. So then we want to get that piece across there and kind of fill that in. So we're just going to get this. A little bit of glizzle. Just kind of mush that down. Now we're starting to get our kind of Ankheg body going here. We're going to need some pinchers. So I think the smart thing to do would be to try to match these up. let's go. Something like that. And we'll grab them up by this part. Now we have two similar pinchers. And so we're going to want to attach those before we do any kind of bottom armor parts. So let's just get some glue here. Kind of get that in there and rub it around some. So we think it's going to stick good. Do the same thing with this side. Let's get it in there, rub it around good. Kind of get it in a position. Something like that. Alright, so let's deal with his bottom part here. And I think the smartest way to do that would be just make these less of like angular plates and make these a little more like curved around the edges. Something like this. Something like that. These guys have eyes, but they're in a weird spot on the front of them, so I'm not sure how we're going to do that. Maybe we'll use some little of those ugly little gem beads that I stole from Mrs. Doom. So I'm just doing the same kind of crap here. Since this has a little bubble of paint on it from a previous project, I'm going to put that part on the inside. Cut a little bit of that off. Okay, so he's starting to get kind of what I want here. Now I just need to get some little bit of plateage going on the bottom portion. It's a little bit long. I'm dry fitting like every one of these before I glue them to make sure that we're not overlapping on the top part. It's really hot in here. Try not to snot and snort and be gross. It's hard because I can't barely breathe. I'm melting. All right. Okay. going to need something back here. Cut this little piece here. All right. So if you had like a little bit of glue pop out like that, it's not a great big deal. Just come over here and smooth that around and get it in there. Get it cleaned up. All right, so each one of these little sections here is gonna be like, you know, the armor portion of him. Okay, so that's kind of where we started at. There should be a third section that is like a pointy sticking out butt on the back, but I'm not sure the best way to handle that, because like their body comes down. You know what, I don't know, let's see what we can do here. Maybe we can just build that part and have it hanging off separate. Yeah, that's what we'll do. All right, let's get a little bit of this. And let's make that back part. So what we're going to do, we're going to get a little foil. We're going to create an abdomen, or whatever you call the butt part. I think it's an abdomen. Okay, we're just going to make our own abdomen like that. We're going to do this first one kind of all the way around, and we're going to use that to latch it on to our main body. No, that's not going to work. All right, let me get something wider. We'll just round that off a little bit. Something like it. There we go. We're going to get a dab of glue right here. Kind of get it roughly in place of how we want it. Something like that. There we go. Now he's going to be a little bit longer than 2 inches, but that's okay. Now we're going to get some glue. We're going to level that up. We're going to pull it down. And this is going to be what connects the butt to the thorax. I think it's called a thorax. You have like the head, thorax, and abdomen on insects. I don't know anything about stuff. Just ignore me. Alright, so let's just come with our thin pieces. And I think what we can do here think we can just kind of glue these on and cut off the excess. We don't want our excess to build up too much, so let's kind of start snipping it off as we go. As long as you get that middle part kind of good, you don't have to have a great measure on this because we're cutting that out, those other parts off, you know. Okay, let's get that on there. Snip off our excess. All right, and then we need something down here to like bridge that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this piece here. Let's see how big that needs to be. It's a little bit too big. Somebody said something about one of the videos I put up about sometimes it's nice to see somebody say, "F it, let's try it." I feel like that is like my entire channel. That is just what we are here. F it, let's try it. It might look good. We don't know. Okay, here we go. There's our Ankheg body. And since he is tinfoil in the core there, now that he's done, we can kind of twist him a little bit so he has an interesting bit of shape. So let's clean this back part up here a little bit with some glue. And just kind of get rid of that gap, and that little squared area. And we're just going to drag glue around and try to hide that. We're going to do the same thing here with that little bit of seam. Just hide that. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing right here. Boo! Just hide that. And we're going to do that here. Okay, now I just want there to be some kind of texture on here. So what I'm doing is getting the tiniest little bit of glue and just smearing it across these plates. It's just the smallest little bit, so they're not smooth. See, I'm not making big ridges. I'm just doing a little bit to have something to paint with. To paint on, I mean. Just kind of touching these little cracks and holes and fill that in a little bit. I'm coming up here and doing the same thing on his head part. Just trying to make that glue go everywhere and give it some kind of texture. the side of his head here, there's some wonkiness. We're just going to get that in there and cover that up a little bit. Get in there and smooth some of that out. That's all. Just making sure there's not giant gaps that look funny. Right? Now, this is the head part where the eyes go. So we're going to do this part too. And I'm not sure if I even want to do eyes, really. Maybe I will. Now let's get some texture down here. Now this isn't as important because you won't really see this part as much. But it's going to add some strength. And for that little bit of time that you do get to see it. Okay. All right. So let's get a base. Let's make a base quickly while that's drying. Cooling, not drying. Get a poker chip from the Dollar Tree. A wire brush. Alright, so I want to use a paint lid for this because it'll be easier for me. Just so you know, if you're getting older, or even if you just have trouble holding onto your miniatures and stuff, you drop them and stuff, having something larger, like a pill bottle or a paint lid or something that you can kind of, you know, loosely hold and not put a lot of pressure, it helps. When you get my age and you're like, oh no, I got arthritis. Yeah, well, there's a solution for that right there. So we know these guys burrow and bust out of the ground. So let's change our base technique up a little bit this time. Let's get some beach sand and add a little texture so it looks like there's been some destructive our little stones. Put those in there. Probably would have been better to put the stones first and then the sand. It's alright. We'll do better next time. And then we want to get this all as one solid deal. And the way to do that is just to kind of make sure we hit all the spots. We don't want to oversaturate it or it'll never dry. Now while that base is setting up, I'm going to put this in front of the fan so it dries a little quick. Alright, so let's get back to this guy. Now we got to get his, there we go, that's the top one. Let's do something with these mandibles. Just to strengthen them up and give them a little texture. Okay. Let's do the underneath too. I'm not putting a large effort into the underneath though. Let's be honest here. I'm just getting some glue on there to stir it up a little bit more. Okay. Let's get in there. Get any spider webs off. Kind of. Alright. So Homeboy's got 6 legs, and they're jointed like an ant. So, let's get some Q-tips. Or toothpicks, I mean. And let's get a little glue on these. See if we can snap them apart some. Get a piece of foam to stick them in while they're cooling. We're going to need 6 of these, right? Yep, 6. Now it says these things are 10 foot long and weigh 8,500 pounds. That is insane. When I look at like the weights on some of these monsters versus how big they are, I mean, I'm thinking like cars that are made out of metal. That has to weigh more than a bug that would increase to that size. How do they come up with these numbers? It drives me nuts. Like nuts. I don't know enough about stuff though. That's another thing. Like I just have my ideas on what it is. I don't know things. So that also doesn't help me trying to figure out what's right. So also them only being able to spit every 6 hours. I would say that's fine. But if you're running one of these, when it comes to spitting, my thought is maybe if they're in an area where they have more accessible meals and they're eating more often, or maybe if they're eating less often, depending on what your thoughts are, maybe depending on their diet, the poison is more readily available or less readily available. So I don't know how true this is, but when I was in Iraq, they used to say that camel spiders didn't produce their own venom, that they just modified then they ate crappy, like poisonous things. So they just modified whatever they had eaten to make their, whatever they're stinging you with or whatever, they bite you. And the rumor is, and again, I'm not an expert on such things, but this is like the stories we would tell about camel spiders. Is that like, if they bite you, it numbs you. You can't feel them chewing on you. Like, that might be true, that might not be, but that's the kind of stuff we would say about camel spiders. So basically, we need to break this into 3 parts. So let's kind of evenly do that. And then the front part's like a toe part. And we're going to break that apart. And we're also going to curl that like that. Then we're going to get some glue. And then at the joints, we're going to do something like that. Sturdy that up a little bit. And it's going to come out of the bug like that. So we're going to sturdy that up too. Alright, let's get our bug. And see how these front legs are going to go on. Something like that. We're going to have to cut this back a little bit. Let me get my snippers. So we'll do the 2 front ones kind of coming out the front, I think. We'll do them just like that. So I'm going to break it roughly into thirds. Break that forward. Break that in half. And all I'm doing is making kind of a bug leg here. Let's get in there. And how I'm attaching this bug leg is I'm just making a dab of glue and shoving it in there so it's like a kind of joint around it of some bug-like joint. Oh shoot, stuck to my hand. Some kind of bug-like joint here. Okay. And I think that's going to be okay. Kind of like that. Yeah. And then we can kind of bend these down and get them in shape. Once they're good and solid, we can worry about that. Let's get some more glue in this little crevice here. Okay. And we can make adjustments as we need to get his foot on the base. So let's make him some more of those. So we're going to do the same thing. Break them into thirds. We're going to do these all at once real quick. All right. Snap that forward. Snap it down. Set it off to the side. We'll snip off those last parts as needed. If you get something wonky like that, instead of fighting with it, just glue it and leave it. Don't even fight with it. Like I said, we're just doing these ones fast. I didn't realize what time it was. I was having a lot of fun making this, and it was turned into a whole big thing, so. Okay. One more. And our base should be looking like it's ready to be messed with soon too. You're probably thinking, oh, these aren't all the same size. Well, you know what? When you make yours, make them all the same size. All right, I'm going to start on the back side where we were done. We'll get our leg. We're going to find the appropriate spot to snip it off. We're going to kind of have it going forward. So on ants, like, I think that's like their front legs on their thorax kind of go forward, and if they have, I don't even know if they have it, how that works, if they have it on their butt or not, but we're just gonna do our best. Then we're going to do the back legs, kind of like going back a little bit maybe. Kind of from that same little region there. Get a ball. Get it in there. Get it to sit in place. Cool for a second. Something like that. Oh, that ain't good. And that was the day we made an Ankheg, everybody. Something like that. There's going to be some adjustments, and we're going to get them on the base, obviously. I'm hoping that won't be a hard thing, if this glue ever cools. All right. Let's go back and grab our base. Bubble base. So we know that we want our front legs kind of bent up some. And the back legs are going to support the majority of the weight. So what we're going to do is we're going to crunch those in and find the right spot. Just kind of glue those down. So we're just going to get a dab of glue and a dab of glue. And we're going to shove these in. Get those down where we want them. Okay. Now in this next part, you're going to say, oh man, Doom, that looks stupid. And I'm going to go, maybe. Maybe. Okay. Alright, now we want to get this last foot up on here. And I'm not planning on mounting his front legs on this. I plan on having those back or up in the air. Okay. So this is that sit. Hold it in place. Something like that. Alright, so then you're just going to come around here and snip off anything that's going to stop the base from sitting flush. Then we're going to get some super glue and run it down those legs. Oh, that's not doing what I want it to. There we go. Okay. Alright guys. Now I'm going to have to end the video of me holding it like this. This is going to take some time. I'm going to do those front legs, but I'm not going to drench those. I'm just going to make sure they're covered in glue so it soaks into that wood and hardens. So we don't have to worry about those moving. Okay. After this glue is dried, I'm going to burn off all my little, what do you call them? My little spider webs. But that's kind of what I wanted to go with, and once it gets painted up, I think it's going to look alright. I just need to get him up a little more. He's not wanting to stand exactly how I want, so I have to hold him for a bit. But anyways, so that's part one of the Ankheg. When you come back, he'll be base coated and we'll paint him together. That was a long one, I know, but I wanted to make it from scratch, and we did. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. Thanks for watching.